Welcome back to X-Raised, where knowledge meets inspiration in the intricate dance of industry evolution. In our last episode, we explored empathy as a discipline, how emotional logic strengthens judgment. Today, we take it one step further. The real question now isn't whether intelligent systems can assist us, it's where responsibility begins and ends, and what defines human accountability in justice. And of course, we're joined again by one of Australia's most influential legal innovators, recently recognized among the women to watch in Australia's legal sector, an award-winning barrister and CEO of MiAI Law, Laina Chan. And coming back here to help us understand how people process fairness, responsibility, and emotional pressure where the stakes are high is Dr. Jennifer Long, an integrative psychiatrist and medical legal expert working at the intersection of mental health and legal responsibility. Welcome back, ladies. Hello.
Hi, how are you?
I'm very well. How are you guys?
I'm good. I had a really busy weekend because we're working on our US law features and I needed to change the code prompts from Australian to US. And
Mhm.
then they were pressuring me. It's done now. And then, I'm speaking at a conference on Thursday. And so I had to do the PowerPoint. After I finished all that yesterday, I was like zonked, sitting in
Is
my
that going to be the
chair.
one in New York?
No, it's just Newcastle. Very
Oh,
sexy.
okay.
It's
That's a
just
different one.
Newcastle. It's the floor conference that we have every year on property
Ah,
and family law.
well, what's new? You're always busy. Hello, Dr. Jen. Welcome back to X-Raised.
Hi, thank you for
Hello.
having me again.
Thank you for being here again. And I'm not going to waste your time. Let's discuss the moral perimeter of intelligence. And I'm going to start again with you, Lena. As someone building AI tools for the legal profession, how do you define the ethical boundary between assistance and authority? I mean, where should technology stop and human accountability begin?
I think it has to come back to not just the fact that AI is limited in what it can do or can't do, but it has to come back to the duties of the lawyer, which Dr. Bryden Wang and I have written about this. As we see it, a lawyer has three duties that it had, the three relevant duties in the use of AI. For us, it's the duty of verification. So you have to check the answers that you're getting from AI. Two, for us, it's the duty of disclosure. So that for me, Bryden thought that you always had to disclose wherever you were using AI, but I'm not sure if that's the correct disclosure because if you are doing research, you don't have to tell everybody I did research and I used LexisNexis or whatever it is I use, right? There's no need to do that. I think the duty of disclosure is that you've used AI, and if you haven't checked it, then you have to say so. Or if and there's no need to tell people your whole work process. But if you've
Mhm.
done something that
Mm.
is that is at odds with your duty of verification, then I think at that point in time you need to disclose that you have not checked all of your work. And the third one is the duty of competence. And as Bryden and I see it, that you have to know your tool. So you have to know the limitations of your tool. And you have to know, for example, if you're using any of the other tools on the market, you have to know how it's actually built, the fact that it's only relying upon the pre-training knowledge of the data that it was trained on in preparing its answers. It's behaving like a lawyer, I was thinking this morning, who doesn't do any research, who is just dipping into their memory to answer their questions. And that's basically how language models work. It's just dipping into their memory and it might do a bit of retrieval, but it's always looking at secondary sources because the architecture is such that you cannot feed the language model hundreds and thousands of pages of documents to answer. So I think you have to really know what the limits of your tool so that you have to understand how it works. You have to understand why hallucinations come about, and you have to know that. And then you also have to be yourself. For me as a developer, I have to also make sure that I have done all the testing, etc., and development of the tool to make sure that it's fit for purpose for a lawyer. and in our context is that we've done so much testing and we've made it really easy for the lawyers to check their answers so that all of the answers, all the propositions that we have pinpoint references and hyperlinks to the underlying source material. So we've made it really easy. So it's one thing for the courts, like for example, I read yesterday that in the Fifth Circuit in America, a lawyer got in trouble because they used a legal specialist tools, two of them they named in the judgment, in the preparation of their reply brief in an appeal. And there were all these hallucinations in there, and this lawyer didn't check. She didn't check. And the court then fined her. But they just went back to the underlying duties of a lawyer. They didn't create any new duties or etc. And, and basically she hadn't checked her work. And so she was fined, I think, $2,500. But the fact is, sometimes they don't make it easy for you to check, right? And so it's all one thing for you to say, you have your duty of verification and you must check your work. But if you use tools where the reasoning process is not revealed to you, and the propositions, yes, they may or may not have a case tied to it, and they don't give you the pinpoint references, it actually makes it very, very hard for the lawyer to comply with their duties of verification and disclosure. So I think that's what you actually have to do. You have to, whatever you're doing as a lawyer, you have to always reference yourself back to the duties that you're operating under and check whether or not you are complying with it. In fact, one of our subscribers yesterday, it was like freaking me out. I said, how is it going? Is it helping you? He goes, oh yeah, it really helped me. It was really great, etc. But I didn't click on all those hyperlinks. It's 99% right, isn't it? And I'm like, you have to check. I cannot guarantee 100%. We probably are at 99%, but we're not at 100%. So what if it's in that 1%, right?
Yeah. Right. And that governance, lens, Laina, is very important. Those three duties that you mentioned, verification, disclosure, and competence, these indeed shift the conversation from what you said, what can AI do? To who remains responsible. And now, Dr. Jen, from a psychiatric perspective, when a profession built on expertise and authority, like the legal world, encounters technology that can replicate parts of that expertise, like research in this case, what psychological responses tend to surface?
This is an interesting question as well. I think it's relevant to medicine and law, but I think what makes them common is the fact that, as a lawyer, as a doctor, you're an expert. It's a hard-won position that you're in. You've done a lot of work to get there. It's relatively rare. And you like to think that that's not easily replicated. So I guess firstly, we think perhaps a certain response might be that this is a potential threat to one's professional identity. Like, if this machine can do what I've trained to do for years, what what is my sort of professional value? So there can be perhaps like a defensive devaluation of what AI can actually do as a sort of like initial unthought out response. And often I've seen people maybe have this knee-jerk response and refuse to use AI, and drawing a boundary, rapidly identifying, this is what it can do, this is what it can't do, this is what it can't do, this is what it can't do. But in addition to that, I think there's also some legitimate ethical concerns about it that arise, that might be a response as well. And those have to do with the humanity of the profession, whether it's law or medicine, in terms of being a witness to others' suffering, and that in my field at least, that therapeutic relationship and concerns about that. So I think when it's come up, it's raised those sorts of emotional responses, at least in my field.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that makes so much
But how do you
sense.
overcome that, Jen?
Yeah, well, I mean,
Yeah, can it be overcome?
Yeah, I think it's inevitable, isn't it? This move towards AI. I'm not I think back to when I was in college, which was so long ago now, and I remember talking about the Turing test and those sorts of things, like what can a computer do, what's the limitations, and it feels like we're having those same sorts of conversations now. But I've been really impressed by the capacity of AI to retrieve information, to organize it. And it just feels like with all technology, we're inevitably going there. So we have to embrace it and use it to, I guess, strengthen our humanity within our respective professions rather than to fight against it.
Yeah, and I agree. And it's the same as, using a cell phone from using the old telephone. I think it's the same. Also, influence affects our decision making in terms of whether to use AI or not. And because change isn't just technical, I think it's very personal. It touches identity, and identity deeply shapes how we define fairness and ethics. So, for both of you, how do values and lived experience shape a person's sense of fairness in ways that rules or algorithms, data alone cannot?
I think this is very interesting because I've always wondered this. Is this nature or nurture? Because obviously, I think a lot of it is nurture, but how your parents brought up and the values that they instilled in you. But is some of it nature as well? I mean, because generally I would consider myself a very ethical person, but I also feel and that maybe some of it's nature, not just nurture.
Both.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this sort of alludes to, I think, what Lana was talking about in the last episode with respect to just, I think, the course that you did at Harvard, where, learning that, it's not necessarily irrational, someone's response to stuff in the law. So, I mean, I'm involved in as an expert in medical negligence matters, and you can see how people get caught up in them because they're wanting this sense of fairness, and when it may not necessarily be logical anymore, it may be irrational, it may not be good for their health to be involved in ongoing litigation, but there is this appeal to the sense of fairness. And it is, a lot of it is nurture, because it does go back, in my view at least, as a trauma focused psychiatrist, to what happens to us in our early relationships, in our early childhood. That our sense of fairness is sort of shaped by that lived experience that we've had, and these sorts of grievances that people have can completely unfound their sense of safety in the world and their ongoing sense of self. And so that's why those things can, that fundamental existential threat can override what may appear rational to other people. So as an outside person, you may come into this and think, well, no, this is the law. These are the options. This is not rational. But that's never going to displace that. Well, I mean, without some sort of intervention, that what comes from a very primal state, or a very early state of what is fair, which maybe can be nature and nurture, as you said.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's both. But all until I did this Harvard course, We always said, as litigators, the cases that go to hearing is when one party feels it's a matter of principle. It's a matter of principle. This is why I'm taking this case all the way. But now I realize that when they say it's a matter of principle, they're just really saying this is unfair. I feel like, I've been wronged. I've been cheated. I've been whatever. A lot of the time, really, I've been cheated, misled, deceived. It's a huge driver in litigation.
Seems like it.
Even in commercial ones, which is just so
I've read
unexpected.
I've read these funny anecdotes about family law and the kind of amount of money that parties will spend to separate property that's not even worth that same amount of money, or to shared property like that might not even be worth anything.
Yeah,
like we've done these many hearings to divide like old furniture that is in the garage or something.
Right. And I think those are very crucial distinctions. Rules indeed create structure, and I think lived experience gives them meaning. And yet, many lawyers remain, I'm sure, we've talked about this, Laina. Many lawyers remain hesitant to try AI tools, even when the tools are assistive rather than autonomous.
Well, they won't really know because they haven't tried it.
Yeah.
But there was this a lawyer that I used to work with years and years and years ago. Now he's become very successful. He's got firms in New York, the Bahamas, London, maybe Australia. Anyway, and he was testing our tool back in London in June. And he said, it's okay for you, Laina, because you've developed this, right? You've developed this tool. But it's really confronting when you test it yourself and you ask it questions and it just answers for you, as well as or better than you might have been able to answer it yourself. And then I find that maybe the more successful people are, the more they could be the more resistant,
more hesitant to
because AI can be a great leveler, right? What was secret, what was just in your head that you knew, that you felt that was special to you, and that was part of your valuation, can now be accessible by everyone if they know the right questions to ask.
Yeah.
It's a great leveler.
Yeah. And so despite these amazing features, they're still hesitant to use it. So Dr. Jen, what do you think are the deeper psychological forces that might be driving that hesitation?
Yeah, but I think like Lena's saying, like it, in that very experienced person who's hesitant to use it, whose identity may be constellated around who they've become. They've made lots of sacrifices to become that person. They've gone through lots of additional training, not just the law school. They're the top of their field. So it is a potentially an existential threat in a way that
it is. It totally is.
that may affect some people worse than others. I mean, we've always had levelers in technology. I mean, one of the things, I've just come back from California, so where kind of laptops kind of came out, and it empowered the average person to have all of this information just over the last, I don't know, like not even 100 years have we've got access. I remember when I was a little kid, you had to have encyclopedias, and if you didn't have access, I'm showing my age now, but so we've been through these sorts of things before in the past. Personally, I'm more concerned about losing my cognitive capacity through using, which I've read some articles that they're, if kids become heavily reliant on accessing information in this way, they may not develop the sort of.
I think I had a work experience student. She's 15 years old. She came, and I was getting her to do some research, and then she used the AI. She got the answer, and she didn't interrogate the answer. And so if you are using AI like this, then I think you will lose your brain capacity. But so I was trying to teach her that when you get the answer, that's not the end of the question, right? You need to keep going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth with the AI to interrogate the questions, to push it to, critically analyze the question and the answer, and then go from there. And that's why we've had Tim, right, a educator on our podcast, and he says as well that the most important thing that they're trying to teach their students is critical thinking, that they have some EduChat bot that they develop for the education department. And when the kids ask questions, they don't tell them the answer. They just say, have you thought about this? Have you thought about that, etc. So it forces them to think. And I think that to learn to use AI properly is to realize that you don't just accept without question what the AI teaches you. But that's also what my English teacher taught me when I was at school, that you just don't accept what anybody, whatever you're fed, you have to bring critical thinking to it. And that's exactly the same process as using AI.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Would you like to add anything else, Dr. Chen?
Well, no, I think that sort of covers it. I mean, exactly where we are concerned about the legitimate misuses of it, but it does. I think a barrier is that sort of existential threat, I suppose.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And I think that's really,
But can that be overcome? Because actually, in truth, it's not an existential threat, because this tool, the correct tool, is actually a multiplier. So it will make every lawyer better. So even the person who's at the top will become better as well. And everyone is being pushed up the ladder. But of course, if you refuse...
inevitable. I mean, I don't know, I sound a bit fatalistic, but it just feels like as we progress as a society, we have more and more information that we have to sort through. So there's a limitation to what we can cognitively manage as an individual human moving through the world. You've got millions of tabs open in your mind, not just about your work, but other things. So I think eventually we might be pushed to have to use this to keep up with others using it, and also just the sheer amount of information that keeps growing.
Yeah.
And the early adopters, the ones who have adopted and get that lift, I think that if you don't adopt AI, then those who have could surpass you, and then you risk becoming irrelevant because you...
It happens in the healthcare system. And the healthcare system is so far behind technologically. But I remember when there were very many resistive doctors who didn't want to do things like type their notes. They preferred to write handwriting notes. And
I wish they would type it. I can't read the handwriting.
Maybe that's why they refused. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But eventually it just becomes part of the infrastructure of what we use. So I think that that's what will happen and overcome it. You'll just get, I guess, people like you who are developing systems, and eventually everyone will just come on board, perhaps.
I think it's very relatable across industries. And I remember, I like the analogy of, it's just like using a calculator. Before, no one used it. And in my childhood, I remember the dial-up internet and shifting to fiber, using the internet alone.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone's very hesitant about it. Oh, it might eat up the data in my computer or whatsoever. There are a lot of doubts. And I like it that you mentioned the risk of losing or not developing our cognitive skills. But then again, after using some AI tools myself, I realized what Laina said again earlier. You have to keep on asking the right questions. I mean, you cannot just let it answer on your behalf. I mean, you have to...
it can't read your mind. But it can't read your mind. The whole system is inert. No matter what system you use, whether you use something like ours where we build the answers from the bottom up, or you use one where it's just relying upon the pre-training knowledge, it cannot read your mind. It doesn't know what you need to know. So you really have to ask the right questions to unlock the to get the inert system moving. Yes.
And I think adaptation is also about trust. And with this, for example, MiAI Law, with all the testimonies that will be coming out in the future, for sure that will be the basis as well of other lawyers who are hesitant or who are hesitant to use the AI tools. And if the future demands not just smarter systems, but wiser humans, what inner shift, individually and collectively, will define the next evolution of justice?
What's the
Yeah, that's my last question
inner
for this
shift?
episode.
Inner
Yes.
shift.
Yes.
All right, inner shift. I think a bit like, I used to go at Christmas time and go and spend Christmas with my husband's grandparents. And then, and there was all this hullabaloo about, oh my God, I don't know how to use the video recorder. I don't know. It's just too much. I'm just not going to learn how to use the video recorder. So I think it's just being curious, isn't it? You have to be curious, and you have to be open to change and to be open to new possibilities. It's just to be curious. It's always, I know the most important quality in being an innovator is to have this quality of curiosity. If you're not curious, then you're not going to be an innovator. But also, if you're going to be able to survive, I think in the next era, the AI era, then you have to be open yourself to the possibility that there could be a different way of doing things. That could make you better.
Yeah.
And if you don't even test it, if you're not even open to that, then, well, you just remain in the way you've been doing things, the same old, same old, same old.
Right.
Yeah, I think that curiosity is also really important in my field as well. And I guess in terms of being a wiser human and not just amongst smarter systems which are emerging, this sort of wisdom, in my view, is really grounded in an interpersonal sense. So I think it's, it will be, we're still going to go back to those same principles that define wisdom now, not even as smart as whatever systems get. They are going to be based in the relationship and those subtle things that AI doesn't pick up at this particular point in time, or may not ever pick up.
AI is quite stupid, AI by itself. The language models, they're quite stupid. They have to be trained, or the algorithms or the code that controls what you use the AI for, like within our systems, have to be so targeted in ours. Because if I let the AI do whatever it wants, the answers you get pretty stupid.
Really. That's interesting. I don't know so much about it, but another thing that comes up in terms of, I guess, when you think about wisdom as well, is the inherent biases, I suppose, that are present in our fields. Like, there certainly are some in psychiatry. Psychiatry has a long history, and it's, that these particular biases may show up in AI as well as systems, the information systems as well. So, I think having a cognizant awareness of where we are historically, as a human, and using those systems is really important in terms of the wisdom moving forward.
And I think that's a powerful place to land, because it reminds us that progress has to be both internal and external. You have to be both. As you said earlier, Lena, you have to be curious. I agree. But personally, I am also very cautious, especially with the data I disclose and all that. You know, when I play new games, I even use secondary or tertiary email address not to for
Yeah.
my personal data
Yeah.
not to be stolen.
So that comes down to the duty of knowing your tool, right? So you
Yeah,
need to know
it has to be
what is happening
trustworthy.
to your data and what is happening. You have to bring, at least in law, you have to know what
Mm, where it goes.
you have to know your tool, basically.
Uh-huh. And across these two episodes I had with you ladies, we've moved from empathy as discipline to humanity as responsibility. So thank you so much, Lena, for always reminding everyone that ethical AI can expand access to justice without replacing human judgment. And of course, Dr. Jen, thanks for being here and for unpacking the psychology behind authority, trust, and moral awareness. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thanks.
Miles. That was really interesting, Jen.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it. I learned a lot.
Oh, I just think it's really a fascinating time. Like
It
it's
is.
yeah.
Let's see. So, Lena told me, oh, let's see after 5 or 10 years, what will people say about these AI tools? Maybe the
It
same
will
as,
just be it will just be like normal, don't you think? It will be like there
yeah,
will be
for sure. It's
yeah.
where everyone is heading.
It's
And
always the way, right? With
yeah.
the wheel, the horse, the cart, the
Uh-huh.
car, the
Yeah.
train, the plane,
And now everyone's using them.
calculators. I want to know what people thought when they first brought out the abacus. I want to know if if there was a
Well, for
huge
sure.
uproar.
There's no podcast yet, so I cannot tell. But
I just can't wait. I wish we could go back in time and we could see if there was this huge uproar and this huge people going, "Oh my God, we can't use the abacus." That's just
that
going
would be
to.
so interesting to know. If you're in the legal space, Lena and her team have tools that prioritize verification, governance, and real accountability. So head over to myai.law. And if you're navigating the psychological side of professional change or working at the intersection of psychiatry and law, check out the details below to connect with Dr. Jen. Thank you guys for your support and for inspiring us to provide more insightful episodes like this one with Lena and Dr. Jen. Until next time, this has been your host, Miles. Stay focused, driven, and inspired with X-Rays.